Okay, so you've been watching this channel for a while, and you probably know nothing about me, but you can pick up a bunch of stuff from what I've posted. I've been trying to figure out what political conversations on the internet mean. And I know that this sounds like off the wall, but if you're a fan of the show, you know how I connected to the end. So stick around to the end, and if you're new here, just do me a favor. You've stumbled onto this video, somebody shared it to you, you shared it, you saw it on a tweet or something. Just stick through it. I promise you it'll be worth your time. And if it's not, tell me about it in the comments below. I've been trying real hard. I've been trying real hard to figure out what the purpose of even touching on social issues and social dynamics, discussing, for lack of a better term, the human condition as it relates to systemic and societal injustices. What is our end goal? Is it entertainment? Is it any form of education? What do viewers walk away with from this sphere of conversation as a whole? Because I know that there are people on Twitter right now that are not talking about politics. I know that there are K-pop stans. I know that there are people who do not give a damn about anything happening in the government. They don't give a fuck who's president. They don't give a fuck about none of that. I know that to be true. I know there to be internet communities that exist that are insulated from even wandering into these discussions. And I know that for a fact with everybody else because of the entire Harry Potter situation. So as I entered the space and I started having more and more conversations with people, I started to recognize a pattern, a very dangerous ideological pattern, where I felt that common anti-Semitic, like the anti-Semite knows that their arguments are stupid. They're literally engaging with you for the sake of engaging. There's nothing to ever be taken from or proven or defeated or challenged or changed. It's all about the theatrics of it all. As long as the conversation is happening, the conversation takes place. And I recognize that even if you were to consider yourself loosely politically adjacent, you know, I know a couple of things going on. I might have heard about this, I read the newspaper, you know. I'm up on the news, not even news and politics. I'm up on the news. I've heard of the events that have happened. I could never pin down why on the top of this big ass pyramid existed people who would willingly create tense situations between themselves, their communities, adjacent communities. Why would they present themselves ever as something that, when heard outside of your insular place, would sound derogatory or weird? There are YouTubers who do cooking shows. Shout out Emmy Made Japan. There's not a level of whatever the weird stuff you're talking about existing in those communities. Why is it in ours we don't have a North Star to point to? Now, I bring all of this up, or I'm starting to say that I think I get it, because I just listened to a clip.
I want to get online and I want to start every single time I see a ratchet black chick, I'm going to start shouting, oh, there goes Shaniqua, there goes Shaniqua. Wow, she sure is Shaniquaing out.
Now, for those of you who know whose voice that is, sure. But it got me to a point where I recognized, wait a minute, before I even heard that, before I saw that, there was a Twitter user who's been here for a hot minute who was literally arguing that. What if I said the same thing? The same thing. Even the Shaniqua out part. And it burned the synapses went off. Because I'm thinking in my head, wait a minute, hold on. So let's say there is a correlational link here. Now, it's a little bit obvious because the words used were very specifically the same exact words, which if you just listen to the clip, that's the tweet. If that person was making that argument on behalf of Destiny, this random ass person on the internet, taking that idea, either unironically or ironically for the laugh, the conversation only took place in that world. In that world, that was a valid thing to repeat. And then it made me think about iDubbbz. And how some people say, oh, you know, why is he apologizing for that time on the internet? It was rough, you know, there was a whole bunch of worse stuff going on, this and that. Basically, looking at the situation and saying, if it wasn't bad for me, it couldn't have been that bad for everybody else. But I remember I was there when the new YouTube stars were coming out and people were just repeating what they were saying. The jokes, literally the span of jokes, the sounds, the voices. Y'all were influential. You're still influential to this date. When it comes to the political sphere, even touching certain news stories, certain larger effects, I just feel like if nobody's forcing you to say something that wild, then what's the point in you doing that? And that's when it clued in for me. I think I get it now. I think I understand that for a lot of y'all, especially those who are popular, you're detached from this already. Your empathy can only go so far until you devolve into something worse. Now, of course, at this point in time, out of the big three that anybody would ever mention, one of them has to be left out of this conversation because I think that person has made their stride in understanding their role in what they can and cannot do. And while they might make mistakes here and there, there's just not really anything to, unless you've got a literal problem with a misinterpretation or something that was said in earnest wrong, surface level shit is fine. We're just going to go in that direction. But you influence your communities. You leave lasting impressions in people's heads. If that person picked it up off of you in a conversation 4 days ago, could you imagine if that person isn't terminally online and said that out loud? And a bunch of black people looked at him yo, or let's say his friends, yo, where the fuck you get that from? That's kind of fucked up. Oh, come on, guys, starts explaining, Bro, you sound really racist right now. Are you good? What do you mean? I'm just discussing a point. I'm just having discourse. I'm just talking to y'all. You know I'm not racist. Now, I understand you can't control the effects of every single word you say, but you have the money, time, and resources that a lot of people don't. You kind of can control the arena in which you play in. I think I get it now. That's what you want. Because you feel that way. There's no other explanation for it, and I don't want to skirt around trying to explain it. I think I get it now. You people are actually miserable. This world has made you miserable. And you're willing to sell out, not to say for the attention, you're willing to sell out your core innards because nobody gives a fuck about kindness. It's okay to admit this. This is where I'm going with this. I think I get it now. The political sphere is full of rotten people eating at the core. There's no politics in these conversations. There's no learning to be done. Yes, there are certain creators that do point in that direction, but I will still, for the love of God say, there's nobody sitting up there. Remember how many times I've said, hey, I think subathons are a really bad idea. Let me go into a 7-part like explanation as to like the breakdown, and I'm going to do that within 5 minutes. Then Pokimane and XQC go back and forth because Pokimane say something, oh, whatever, dude. So fuck them in this part of the conversation. Because nobody can do this fast enough. I'm 31, I'm 32, I'm 33. I've never had this conversation before. Why is there nobody with a core sense of like understanding a struggle that is surrounding you right now? And if you yourself have gone through that struggle, why is it that you need these conversations to be had? How much stream time do you spend having these conversations? How much time of your life do you do? If you're sitting in front of a camera, streaming for the majority of the time, when do you do these conversations? When do you talk to people about this? When do you talk to your friends about it? Do you text them? Do you call them? Why are you asking all this goddamn information in the middle of a thing about Twitch politics or online political discussions? Because now ask yourself, how many of the conversations do you have that are fruitful? How many of the conversations do you have that make sense furthering forward? It feels like you're kind of rewinding in circles, right? Ted Cruz making up that the Southern split didn't happen. You're taking the Southern switch didn't happen. You're taking that seriously? You have no choice because the absurd is the conversation. Because you have no vehicle to negate that. You've got a Bernie Sanders meme every 3 months, and you've got AOC with a sweet dunk for the left. They outnumber you 18-1. At this point, and I'd hate to say leftists can't have any jokes. Maybe we just tone it down on the irony for just like a hot minute. Because if things go in any other direction, I hate to say it, but motherfuckers is gonna look to people like you on what to think. Whether you like it or not. I know Hassan calls himself a himbo, I'm dumb as shit, blah, blah, blah. But even he has said out of his mouth, I know I'm going to be responsible. So I must put positivity or at least control the necessary urge to engage in wanton conversation because that gets people's jollies off to clip left, clip right. I'm sorry if it takes but if you can stream for 8 hours, you can have these conversations. Nobody makes you go over a 3-hour drama video and explain your side of the story. That's why I say, you put these people in a room and they get weird all of a sudden. They're not cool. They're not cool. They're not the niggas you hang out with. Them's the weird motherfuckers at the table that be talking about, well, did you see that girl's bra last night? That shit was crazy, right? Sorry. And it's not the viewer's fault. And that's the biggest thing about this whole thing that I'm ending this entire segment on is this. This is the core point. It is never the viewer's fault. They weren't given options because there weren't options. The 2 adpocalypse that we went through, and we're going through a third now. Crazy. No, a fourth. We're going through a 4th adpocalypse. 4 times they've upped this to this level, and we've said, please tone it down. If you weren't a creator back then, if you didn't give a shit about the creator space, that was the news. The drama happened because all there were hit pieces. Cleverly crafted. Everything. Information poured into a gallows. But you mad at him because he said this during a 9-hour broadcast and you taken out of context, and then somebody threw up a clip on LSF and that's a conversation. The absurdity you can't escape from because all your viewers know is absurdity, because all there is absurdity. You'd have to You want things to change? Sounds like you're going to need a paradigm shift.